The average teenager spends 9 hours on social media. 9 hours. Like, this is our competition. This is my competition. Someone who spends 9 hours on social media. Like, what is that? There's literally no competition between these people. It's ridiculous. If you're spending 9 hours on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and stuff like that, that means you're probably not going to the gym. You're definitely not. You definitely don't have good mental health for the reason I'm going to talk about in a second. I mean, you're not doing anything productive really at that point. So, like, what's the point of all that time? There's no point. It's ridiculous. So the average TikTok user spends 90 minutes on the platform every day. 90 minutes on TikTok. I mean, it's just crazy. So, there's a multitude of reasons why this is absolutely terrible for you, and why, if you're one of these people, you should stop. And even if you're not, to be aware of these reasons so you can make sure you don't fall into this trap anytime in the future. So, there's four main reasons. The first one is the comparison. So, your brain works very, very simply in this aspect. It basically sees yourself and your self image, the person you see in the mirror, the person that the thoughts that you hear every day, all of that. That's yourself and your self image, right? And then when you see someone else, your brain will make a comparison instantly. It will instantly make a comparison, and you aren't like consciously thinking this, but it's happening in the background in your subconscious. So let's say you were out fishing, right? You're fishing on a boat, and you reeled in like a fish that was like this big, right? And then you're next to three other boats, and they all reel in a fish that's like this big. Then you're gonna think, oh, okay, let's go. I'm a great fisherman. But then, if you're next to 100 boats that are all around you that have trolling nets, and they all throw a trolling net in, and then they get like a ton of big fish like this, then you're gonna think you're a terrible fisherman, right? It's pretty simple. Dumb example, but you understand the point. So we can use this for TikTok and social media in general. If you're constantly seeing someone who's better looking than you, has a better physique than you, is happier than you, has more girls than you, more friends than you, then you're gonna think you suck. You're gonna feel shitty about yourself. That's just how it works. There's no getting around that. It's just built into the platform. Because the way you succeed and the way you excel in something like Instagram or TikTok, for example, is by being very good looking, um, having a very good physique, or things like that. Something that's like engaging and emotionally engaging, right? It's simple. Like, you can think of Instagram physique pictures. Like, if you ever look through like Instagram and you have like physiques on your homepage, the average dude is not on your Instagram feed. It's the top 0.1% genetic elite who also probably takes steroids. That's who you're seeing. And that's who you're comparing yourself against. So no wonder there's like body dysmorphia and all this shit. It's very simple. So comparison is obviously an issue. If your self-image is terrible, you're gonna feel bad about yourself. You're gonna constantly feel inferior and insecure, which is a huge issue that I know I struggled with in the past. And a lot of it came from social media, overconsumption. So the next one is the sheer amount of time you're spending on these platforms. If you're the average teenager and you spend 9 hours on social media, like, I mean, you can't go to the gym. Like I said, um, you can't like do anything. I don't even understand how that would be possible. You need time to work on your business. You need time to do your studies or whatever things you have to do. You need time to um, go out and meet girls, hang out with friends, have an actual life. You need time to go to the gym and build your physique. All these things take time, and time is the most valuable thing. It's the only thing that we all are losing constantly. We all start with one full tank when we're born, and then it constantly depletes for the rest of our life. And if 9 hours of this, if more than half of your waking hours are gone, like, what do you expect is gonna happen? I mean, it's not. It doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to figure this out, right? It's not that complicated. Obviously, the time sink is an issue, and the reason the time is so big is because once you start using these platforms with no like limits on yourself and no attempts to control it, even if you tried to control it, you couldn't. But if you aren't limiting yourself on these, then you're just going to become someone who's constantly needing more stimulation. So normal life is not going to feel stimulating. It's not going to be at a good like dopamine level for you. Just sitting there and reading a book, for example, is not going to be a fun experience, right? So only TikTok is going to be a fun experience. Only, watching a million videos in a row, swiping whenever you see like a slight dip in dopamine. Oh no, it's ridiculous. So it fucks up your perception of the world. It fucks up your how you like gauge other tasks and the difficulty of other tasks, because your difficulty gauge is scrolling, like doing that. That's the like biggest difficulty you experience in your life. So obviously you're fucked. Yeah. The reason you can't control it is because there are tons of motherfuckers in Silicon Valley being paid $500,000 a year to optimize every single click, every single micro, like any little tiny input, they're optimizing it. Any way they can keep you on the platform longer, optimizing it. So you're completely hopelessly outgunned if you have these apps. Like obviously you're gonna have trouble controlling the usage because that's the point. It's like the attention economy, right? I mean, they're just trying to like use you for your attention and your currency and your information and stuff like that. And they don't care about your mental health. They don't care about the time you're wasting. They don't care about your life. They care about money. I mean, it's simple. It sucks, man. The next thing is so we have time and we have the comparison, right? The next thing is your dopamine baseline and your dopamine receptors and dopamine peaks and things like that. So I've talked about this before, but if you don't understand this, you have a baseline in dopamine. It's like this. Some people have a higher one, some people have a lower one, but it's a certain point, right? And this can be thought of as your baseline happiness. So if your baseline happiness is here, you might feel pretty sad most of the time. If it's here, you probably feel pretty happy, pretty motivated most of the time, right? So the goal would be to keep it higher. Now, one of the easiest ways to keep it higher is to get rid of things like TikTok and easy pleasures like that. Because the way these pleasures work is it'll spike your dopamine like this, and then your baseline will go down. So it'll spike your dopamine, baseline goes down. Spike, down, spike, down. You can think of this easily as in if you took heroin, for example. You did heroin, right? Like a fucking dumbass. Then you'd have a huge spike and your baseline would go down. You'd imagine you'd feel shitty after that, right? You can see like the crackheads on the street, they don't seem like they're having the best time. That's because their baseline keeps getting lower and lower and lower. And so the only way they can feel the same enjoyment from life is to take heroin again, right? So then your whole life goes to shit. And I'm not saying that TikTok is exactly the same, but over a long enough time horizon, it has a similar effect on your baseline dopamine. Like you're just gonna feel worse in general if you're spending so much time on social media and TikTok. So your baseline is gonna be very lowered, which is the next issue. That means you're gonna be more depressed, less find less enjoyment in things. I guess that's the meaning of depression. Be less motivated for things. It's just not a good feeling, and you've probably experienced this before. I know I've definitely experienced this before. Being someone who used to spend 6 hours playing video games, if I wasn't watching YouTube, I was watching TikTok, and it was not fun. It was probably like the worst point of my life. I felt the worst, the most depressed, the most meaningless, the most purposeful, or the least purposeful. It was just not great. And every step I've taken towards being able to control my consumption and deleting TikTok, for example, deleting Instagram, my life has improved. So take that for what you will. The next issue is attention span, your attention span. If you spend so much time on social media and you're constantly watching TikToks, which are like 3 seconds long, you're training your brain to focus on something that's 3 seconds long, to constantly switch skills, switch the thing you're focusing on in very rapid succession. So this is exactly the opposite of what we want if you're trying to do work, for example. Go to the gym, for example. Do something that requires any type of actual effort, any type of sustained effort and sustained focus. It's literally the complete opposite of TikTok. You're training your brain to be bad at effort, to be bad at work. Like, obviously there's an issue with that. If you can't do any work because your attention span is so fucked, because you're used to watching TikTok, then you're gonna have a very hard time. You're gonna have a very hard time doing your business things, very hard time doing your work, studies. So it's a clear correlation. Yeah, coaching is down below if you have any other questions. It's definitely useful to invest in knowledge. You can skip all my dumb mistakes that I made over the past few years and just skip to the very end through knowledge. Yeah, coaching is down below. Have a good one. Peace.